Um, I didn't think I would be making this video, but it's 11:51 p.m. and if I don't make this video, I don't think I'm going to be able to sleep. So, bear with me. The last time I made a video about All for the Game was in 2019, which was 5 years ago. And at the time, the video that I made, I think it's called Why Tumblr Loves All for the Game. And essentially it was less of a review and more just me being like, like the internet loves All for the Game and like I love All for the Game, so we'll talk about it and it'll be great. And I'll be honest, I don't remember what I said in that video, but I vaguely remember that it was like, yeah, you know, like I love it. It was really good. And like that doesn't show you how utterly unhinged I am and I have become over this series. And so I figured we need to rectify that. Like I need to show you the crazy. We gotta talk about this. There's just too much to talk about. And the reason I'm talking about it with you today is because I finished reading The Sunshine Court. If you've never heard of All for the Game, I'm gonna fill you in on this magical adventure. All for the Game is a book series that was published in the 2010s. I believe the third one was published in 2017. And essentially, it is a sports book. It's fiction. It is set in 2006 and 2007. And it is about a fictional sport called Xe, which is like a bastardized version of lacrosse, is kind of how it's pitched. And it's also about the Japanese Yakuza. Can't really give too much away other than that, but if you're here, you probably already know what it is. I read it, like I said, 5 years ago for the first time, and I just remember reading it in a fever dream, as most of us do. It's the kind of book series that, like, if you get it, and you cannot put it down until you finish it. And so the first time I read it, I was like really invested in it. I really loved it. It was fantastic. Obviously, I was obsessed. However, I don't think I can express to you what has happened in the last 5 years. Obviously, we went through a pandemic, and I think that did a number on me. But like, it got to the point where there was a couple years where I read this series more than once during the year. And like, I have this really long tag on my Tumblr that's just All for the Game. And I think about it literally all the time. It's genuinely, it's my second favorite series of all time. Truly. And I don't give that out lightly. That's a big honor. And so when I figured out that Nora was going to be releasing another book in the series, obviously I went through all the emotions, as you did too. First it was disbelief, like the fact that she was back on social media talking about this. I was like, this can't be real. There's no way she would give us more content like that. Obviously there's the extra special content that I've never read, but that exists. And then after the disbelief and the shock and the joy and all of the grief and the feelings and whatever, I was terrified. Because I think the thing that's so special about All for the Game is like, it is one of the fandoms that has the most insane internet presence, you know, like there are fandoms that have strong internet presence, obviously, and pretty much everything these days, like there are fans of it online. But the fans of All for the Game, especially on Tumblr, are probably the most insane, like unhinged, feral. They write so much fan fiction. They read all of the headcanons and everything that Nora writes, and like, the characters from that world have developed their own personalities outside of the books. And I know that happens in fan fiction, but to the extent that like we all agree on what happens, even though there hasn't been a new book in years. And so, since everybody had a very strong opinion about what was happening post King's Men, I was nervous for Nora and for myself. And I was just nervous that like her ideas weren't going to match up with the fandoms. And I couldn't say if I agreed more with her, the fandom, or what, because I didn't even know what she thought. But I know she was really nervous about it because she was like, like I have my ideas and they might be different than yours. And that's just how it goes because I'm writing what I want to write. And so like, I don't know, there's just so many opportunities for a spin-off series. There always is. And I think there are so many book series that have spin-offs that are bad. And most of the time that's because the spin-offs come from a place of like capitalism, or the publisher is telling them to write it, or like they want to write it but they don't really know how to do it, or like all of these different things. And so it's a little bit different when you have a self-published author, because like it feels more like she's doing it from the heart, and especially because all the All for the Game books are only 99 cents. Like she is making money off of it, but she's really not making that much. I don't know. I was optimistic, but I didn't really know what we were going to get into with it. And so when I started reading it this morning, I was so worried. I was so worried that she couldn't do it again. And I should never have doubted the woman, because it genuinely, truly, like, I don't know how to rank any of the All for the Game books, because, like, I think it feels like one big story and you can't really separate out parts of it. I really love Kingsman a lot, but Raven King is also really important. And Foxhole Court is great, but, like, it's not as good as the Kingsman. And so in saying that, I don't know where to place the Sunshine Court. Also because I've only read it one time, but also because it's the first in a duology, question mark. I don't know, but I genuinely think I might have liked it as much as the Kingsman, if not more. And that's really impressive. That's really fucking great for all of us, I'd say. Anyway, I have to talk about the Sunshine Court. This is not really a book review. I just want to, like, yell about all of my favorite people. So if you don't want to be spoiled, get out of here. And if you do want to be spoiled, let's fucking go. There's so much I want to talk about. I loved pretty much all of it. Like, I think there was just so many incredible moments. I think the balance between, like, really nice, uplifting moments and, like, humor balanced out all of the dark shit that we learned about everything. I absolutely loved her idea of starting in the Kingsmen timeline and working her way forward and staying within that range. I think it did so many great things for the narrative and the characters, because, like, obviously we knew what happened then. And so we kind of were tuned in on the things that Jean, I cannot tell you how many times my brain just calls him Jean, forgive me. All of the things that Jean is figuring out, like, obviously we already know it, but, like, to watch him figure it out and to see how it affects him and his psyche is just, like, truly incredible. Like, I'm gonna be real honest. I never really cared about Jean that much. Like, I respected him and I appreciated his part in the story, but I was never, like, a Jean fangirl. Like, I didn't go past whatever he did in the original series. And so, like, in the announcement of this book, I was excited to get to know more about him, because I know, like, I could care about him. I just didn't know how. And boy, do I care about him. There's obviously 2 POVs in this book, which I'm absolutely thrilled about. I forgot that she was trying to do that, and I think it worked so well for the narrative, because so much of the issue, it's not an issue, but one of the interesting things about the original series is that, like, Neil has all these secrets, and so we don't know the things that he knows, and we also don't know the things he doesn't know. And so you spend the whole time being like, I kind of know what's going on, but also my narrator is hiding shit from me. And not that Jean isn't doing that, but I think, like, getting to switch back and forth between him being like, yes, I have all these deep, dark secrets, and this is what happened, and I know this, and this kind of happened. And then we cut to Jeremy being like, la-di-da, I actually don't know about the Japanese Yakuza. It's just, like, kind of fun and quirky. And it just felt, it was like reading 2 different books, but they work together really, really well. Because, like, Jean is quite literally, like, in a mob movie. Like, he is fearing for his life and suffering from intense trauma. And Jeremy probably also is suffering from intense trauma, but he's going the, like rom-com way of, like, oh my God, there's this new guy on my team and I'm gonna be nice to him and he's kind of cute. And it's like, oh my God, 2 ways to deal with trauma. You can either be really positive or really fucking depressed. I was just having so much fun with the dual POVs, and especially because I really, truly, like, one of my favorite things about Nora is she writes such rich characters. And obviously in the original trilogy, like, all the foxes are really, like, they feel really, really strong. But for whatever reason, I don't know if she's, like, improved writing wise, or, like, the planning was better, or, like, execution was better, or what, but, like, the Trojans are so strong in my mind, and I've had them for only 1 book, and if anything happened to them, I'd kill everybody in this room. I just was so impressed by how rich they were and how much they leapt off the page. Jeremy, sweet baby Jeremy, who is introduced by playing a yo-yo, and then it gets caught in his headphones. And also, he got a gift card for an unhoused person. Like, I just feel pretty insane, actually, about that man. And I think the other thing that's fascinating is, like, again, we only know about the Trojans what Neil has told us. And so we know that Kevin loves them, and we know that they're really good at their stuff, and we also know they're really nice. And that's it. And that's also what Jean knows. He doesn't really know anything about them either. And so throughout the book, you're kind of figuring out like, oh yeah, like they're really nice on the court, but also like they are angry and they are disappointed and they have all these feelings. The depth that this book adds to the original series is really impressive, but I also love that it's its own thing. And somehow it's both a continuation and a new thing, and like I don't even know how to like balance it out. It's just like absolutely perfect. Like that's the only word I can use. It's perfect. I think part of why this part of the series works so well is that there was a gap between releases and writings, and like a lot of, especially I'm just thinking about the representation in this book, and especially like all the queer rep in it. Not that it couldn't have been in the original series, and not that the original series isn't queer, because it is. But I just like immediately there is a strong difference where like Jean is queer and Jeremy is queer and Layla and Kat are a thing, and like half of the team I feel like is gay, and then there's Xavier who went through surgery who's trans presumably, and then there's Cody who goes by they them, and so it's just like there's all these people that were leaping off the page that I was like, it's so explicit, it's right there, and it's just like incorporated into it, and it just feels natural. And I don't know if we would have gotten there if this had been published, you know, like in 2018 and 2019, because that was still prominent back then, but I feel like there's been such a huge change in 5 years, and so it's just like really, really good. Like I was just really happy with how she played it all out, and I love the Trojans, I love the new characters, I love Kat and Layla, I love the dynamic of the house, that like Jean now has this home, and like Jeremy has turned it into a home, and Kat and Layla, I think that's how you say her name, that they like take him grocery shopping and force him to learn how to cook, and like I don't know, it's so reminiscent of the original series, because I think Jean and Neil have such similar arcs and parallelism, and they're like almost the same person, except they're not at all. But like the Foxes and the Trojans kind of like taking them under their wing is like, it's just so similar on both sides. And I love it. I love it so much. And I also love that we got to see the Foxes. Like I was ready to not see very much of them, because I didn't know when it was going to take place. And I was like, you know, if we're not going to see them, I'll be okay. I'll live without any more Neil content. But then Nora just gifted us with so much content. She even had time for Neil to be a crazy son of a bitch and like be rude to the cops and the FBI, and like hire a hitman for Jean's rapist. Like what a king. Also like Wymack even, he didn't have a lot of page time, but like he was there like a fair amount, I'd say. And he even had time to throw in a zinger. First of all, the scene where he's holding the bowl of soup and Sean's like, I don't want that. And he's like, okay, well, my hands are cold. I'm just going to hold this bowl of soup, which is classic Wymack behavior. And then the second thing is when he, first of all, flies Jean across the country and then just like turns back, but he leaves the cash and the note that's like, I'm not fucking doing this again. Buy some fucking clothes. It's just so... It's so funny because I feel like all of the fans of All for the Game, like we are all just in a trench together, huddled together, making jokes and like laughing at our insanity. And like in most fandoms, the author is kind of like above, being like, yeah, you guys are funny. And like sometimes Nora leaves, but like most of the time she's like right in there with us, and we're all just like egging her on, and we're all in it together, and it's so fun. I had so much fun reading it. It was so funny, but also incredibly dark. Like the fucked up shit that we learned about Jean specifically, but just about like the Ravens, absolutely insane. And I think it's so crazy too, because Jean is so desensitized to it that he doesn't even realize how much he's been abused until like he looks over and like all of the Trojans are just like, what? Like the scene where he is on the court and they're scrimmaging and he's messing up, and he hands the racket over to his coach because he's like, yeah, obviously you're gonna want to hit me now. And the coach is like, what? Oh, he's been so abused. It's fine. I can't even begin to talk about all of the rape. I don't even want to talk about it. We're not going to talk about it because it's just too terrible to think about. The scene where Neil is asking him about Grayson, and Jean has the line where he's like, Drake wasn't a biter then. fucking insane. The thing I want to know about is Jeremy. I want to know about his background because we haven't talked about it, but we've been dancing around like there's something with his stepfather and he destroyed the family, and what does that mean? I don't know. Does it have to do with the fact that he's gay? I don't know. There's just like, there's so many things that I feel like we tiptoed around in this one that I'm excited to see the fallout in the next one, because she did such a great job of exposing just enough and giving us just enough scenes to like make me feel good. Like I felt satisfied. Like I could end it there, it would be fine, but also I have so many questions now that I really would like them answered ASAP. And it's like half of them are questions and the other half of them are like, okay, we set up a lot of characters and a lot of development and a lot of opportunities for growth in the next book, that it's like, obviously Jean and Jeremy have mutual attraction. Obviously that is a thing they're going to have to contend with, especially because they made kind of like a pact at the end of the book that they were going to get each other through. And so like that, there has to be payoff on that at some point, but like we're not going to see it for a little while. There's the question of Jean's family, that are we going to see that kind of payoff? Obviously Jeremy's family. There's the whole like season. Are we going to see a whole season of Exy in one book? Is she going to write more than one book? I don't know. There's so many questions. I'm not sure. I will say, I was really happy that we didn't have to see that many Exy games, and also that the ones that we saw were like really abbreviated ones that we already knew about, because I love Exy. But like, I don't need to read about Exy. I want to read about Jean being waterboarded. Apparently, I do actually kind of want to talk about like the most insane, in my opinion, scene of the book, which is the Lucas Grayson scene. Like, that's the climax, right? That's arguably the climax, isn't it? Kind of. And here's the thing, like, it needed to happen, and I respect that it happened, but also incredibly fucked up scene. When I was reading it, I just remember they went out to talk, and obviously I was like, first rule, like, don't let Jeremy out of your sight, obviously. When I tell you, when that man opened his car door, the fear that I felt was pretty much equivalent to when Neil was in Baltimore. Like that, it was the same level of intense fear that I did not want to keep reading because I was not ready for it. And it's so bad because you keep going and you're like, okay, it's gonna suck, but we'll get through this, it's fine. And so Lucas is like, nah, stay behind the fence. Like, he clearly knows that there's something bad going on there. And then he just lets him get through the fence. And and again, just like watching the parallels between Neil's story and Jean's, like there are so many things that are different about them. They're not the same protagonists or characters at all. A lot of their motivations are different. The way that they handle things are just completely different. But like so much of their issues and the way that they react to things are like very, very similar. And even just the parallels between like Jean and Andrew is just like really compelling too. And Kevin and all of them, and it's like I'm back with all of my old friends, but now they have new friends and I get to see the new friends too, and the new friends are really fun. And I just like, it is so rare to pick up a sequel series or a spin-off series and get everything that you asked for that you didn't even know you wanted. And I 100% got that, and the chances that I will get it again in another book are like really fucking high. Like there is pretty much no way I think she could fuck up a sequel to this one. And that is both terrifying and absolutely marvelous and wonderful. It's crazy to me because when I was starting to read All for the Game, there were so many connotations and things that people were saying about it that they were like it's a problematic series, and obviously there are a couple things about it that are like not great. But it is like dated and it has all these caveats and stuff. And so it's like, I feel like when people talked about it 5 to 10 years ago, it was like, this is a bad series. But like, if you read it, like, just remember that it's a bad series. And it's like, is it though? I think it's pretty great. And I also think that like the main themes of it are really, really uplifting and hopeful. And especially with this new addition to the series, like so much of it is just about like overcoming trauma and overcoming grief and overcoming abuse and loss and really dark things. And like, what is the answer to getting out of that? Actually, it's friendship. Actually, it's found family. Actually, it's queerness. And so it's like, yes, is it fucked up? Are there mature themes? Absolutely. Should Jean's parents have sold him to the Japanese Yakuza? Probably not. But like some parents sell their kids to One Direction, so it's fine. It's the same thing with any dark series, you know, like dark shit happens. And that doesn't necessarily mean the author is endorsing it. And also, like, sometimes you have to go through really dark shit to, like, grow and to see things. And it's not like justifying rape or justifying any of these bad waterboarding, anything bad like this, but it's like, God, you learn something. You really think about a lot of things, and it really makes you appreciate life. And like, I think that's what I was hoping for from Jean's story, is like, it is very much like a healing story, and there is hopefully a happy ending towards the end of whenever it comes. Nora does it so well. She is so good at writing trauma, but she's also really good at healing and showing why you should live. And like, it's such an important thing for so many people, and for me too, to like have these characters go through all of that and still come out okay, and like to watch them build trust over time and to learn to care for each other and like extend that circle of trust a little bit bigger with this new book is just like so huge, and it's so fun. And it's crazy because this sport doesn't even exist. These characters aren't even real, but also they're my best friends. I am genuinely fighting the urge to like pick it up and reread this book again, because it's just like, it's literally everything I wanted. And it in a weird way, there were even parts of it that I was like, some of this kind of feels like a Casey McQuiston novel, in the best way, that you're like, cool, like we have our crew of like found family people, and they all live together, and they're all really funny, and there's one of them who doesn't really understand what's going on, but like, like we all love you anyway, you know? And so it's just like, I don't know, there's so much queer joy in this story, even though arguably I think this story is even more fucked up than Neil's story. Because Jean went through a lot of shit. And I don't know if I can ever forgive Nora for doing that to my sweet baby boy, but I just feel very changed, and I am still all for the game trash forever. So that wasn't coherent by any sense of the imagination, but I guess I feel better. I hope you enjoyed it. I would love to hear your thoughts if you are all for the game trash. If you've never read it and you made it this far, would love to hear from you. But yeah, I guess now I have to go to sleep and try and move on from this book. Anyway, thank you for watching, and hopefully I'll see you again soon. Bye!